For 39 years, we blamed a creaky World War II plane. Pilots talked about a fickle heater, newspapers pointed to bad luck, and official files sat half-forgotten in a Washington warehouse. Then, in 2024, a deep-dive podcast hauled those documents into daylight and cracked the seal on maintenance memos no fan had ever seen. What they uncovered wasn't just negligence. It was a string of shortcuts so bold they read like a how-to guide for disaster. By the end of this story, you'll know why Ricky Nelson's comeback flight was doomed before takeoff, why the real villains never faced a jury, and how his family is finally rewriting the ending he never got to live. Stick around. Every section adds new evidence, and the last one might keep you awake tonight. Eric Hilliard Ricky Nelson entered life on May 8, 1940, as America's favorite +1, second son to vaudeville sweethearts Ozzie and Harriet Nelson. Before first grade, he was reading scripts, and by 8, he shared a microphone with Mom and Dad on the hit radio show, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. 2 years later, television came calling, catapulting the family's living room sitcom into millions of real living rooms. Growing up under studio lights had perks, box seat Dodgers tickets, endless milkshakes at product placement diners. But it also came with a 5-page behavior contract drafted by Ozzie himself. Every haircut needed sponsor approval. Every yes sir and no ma'am had to sound wholesome enough for the Midwest. Nelson's first rebellion was musical. He slipped a rock and roll 45 onto the family's kitchen set during rehearsal, sparking teenage laughter and a stern paternal glare. Mom relented, Dad calculated ratings, and by spring 1957, Ricky cut I'm Walkin', a Fats Domino cover that sold 1 million copies in 6 weeks and cemented him as television's first true teen idol crossover. But charisma ages quickly, and Ricky felt the stopwatch ticking louder with every curtain call. Success snowballed. Between 1957 and 1963, Ricky logged 30 top 40 singles, starred alongside John Wayne in Rio Bravo, and headlined both primetime TV and drive-in double features. He was the first pop star to land a Billboard #1, one with Poor Little Fool, and the first to showcase rock and roll on a weekly sitcom. But the higher he climbed, the steeper the backstage price. Publicists pre-wrote his fan club letters, stylists vetoed denim that looked too biker, and Harriet audited every girlfriend at the kitchen table like a casting call. One date, an aspiring folk singer, recalled Harriet sweetly offering pie while sliding a sheet of curfew rules across the countertop. Ricky laughed it off, yet the message was clear. Image first, emotions later. Still, by age 23, he was tired of rented smiles and aw shucks quotes. He grew out his hair, dyed it chestnut, and packed a Fender Telecaster alongside country steel wizard Tom Brumley. The new sound, equal parts Bakersfield twang and Sunset Strip jangle, thrilled critics but puzzled network execs. That creative tug-of-war would explode in front of 20,000 spectators at Madison Square Garden. While reinventing himself on stage, Ricky sought stability off it. Enter Kristen Harmon, actress, painter, daughter of Heisman hero Tom Harmon. The April 20th, 1963 wedding looked like a Life magazine fairy tale. Flower girls in powder blue, surfers turned ushers lining the Malibu aisle. 4 kids followed, Tracy, twins Matthew and Gunnar, and baby Sam. But idols warp under Klieg lights. Touring bills piled up, Kristen's spending spiked, and Ricky coped by booking more road dates. By the late 70s, he was sleeping on tour bus benches while lawyers traded subpoenas. The December 1982 divorce decree cost him over $1 million and sliced his residuals in half. His diary entries from that winter, later auctioned, show a man who felt nickel and dimed to death. Pain leaked into his lyrics. Unheard demos like Broken Harp swapped Teenage Moonglow for lines about pawn shops and custody weekends. Yet from that heartbreak came the defiant chorus that would become his new mission statement. October 15, 1971. Richard Nader's Rock and Roll Spectacular 7, Madison Square Garden. Nelson steps out in bell-bottoms and a purple velvet shirt, hair brushing his shoulders. A visual thunderclap to an audience expecting 50s pompadours. After a few vintage hits, Ricky slips into the Rolling Stones' Country Honk. Boos thunder like a subway train. Whether aimed at him or at police clearing aisle dancers, the sting is immediate. He leaves mid-set, fuming. Months later, he channels the humiliation into Garden Party, a breezy, steel guitar-laced memoir of that night. The single rockets to #1. 6 in 1972, his first top 10 in nearly a decade. The chorus, "You can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself," becomes gospel to artists cornered by nostalgia. Yet radio follow-ups stall, and by 1984, Ricky is playing state fairs and ski lodge lounges, lugging his own amps to save on crew costs. So when a promoter dangled a New Year's Eve payday and whispers of a fresh record deal, Nelson said yes, blind to the rust hiding under his plane's polished skin. Tale number N711. Why had swagger? Built for the Army Air Forces in 1944, later converted for rockstar tours, once owned by Jerry Lee Lewis. But swagger masked age. Mechanics logged faulty magnetos, temperamental fuel pumps, and, most worrying, a gasoline-fired janitrol heater that either choked the cabin with fumes or refused to light at 10,000 feet. Pilot Ken Ferguson allegedly warned Nelson that the unit could roast us alive, but scheduled concerts left no wiggle room for extended maintenance. On December 30th, 1985, a technician noted heater would not sustain burn, yet paperwork shows no repair order filed. December 31st, 10 a.m., Guntersville, Alabama. Ricky tapes a radio promo, signs a few 45s, and boards the DC-3 with fiancée Helen Blair and 5 band members. In his jacket pocket rests a track list for an in-progress album tentatively titled Brother Moon, 11 songs blending Sun Studio slapback with 80s synth pads. He hopes to shop it to Curb Records in January. The album never reached a studio vault. Instead, charred reels would lie in an evidence locker for decades. New Year's Eve, 1985. Minute by minute to disaster, 17:05 Central Standard Time. Wheels up from Guntersville. Temperature aloft, 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Captain Brad Rank switches heater to start, reports weak flame. 17:07. Cabin witnesses describe a sweet acrid odor. Musicians joke about rotten eggs, tug scarves tighter. 17:09. Dense smoke crawls along the ceiling. Bassist Patrick Woodward yells for fresh air. Rank cycles heater off on 3 times, attempting relight. 17:11. Co-pilot Ferguson radios Memphis Center. "We have smoke, descending." He wants to kill the heater. Rank hesitates, fearing carb ice. 17:12. Orange glow flickers beneath seat rails. Flight attendant tries to reach cockpit door, finds it jammed. 17:13. Rank declares Mayday. Sets down to 3,000 feet. Scans for pasture clearings near DeKalb, Texas. 17:14. Fire breaches cabin wall, igniting upholstery. Airframe strikes a fence, slides 400 feet. Cockpit windows shatter. Pilots crawl out. Back in the cabin, flame fronts meet guitar cases varnished in nitrocellulose. Flashpoint 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Survivors never make it to the aisle. Texas Highway Patrol arrive within minutes, but the fuselage is already skeletal. News networks grab grainy helicopter footage, a scorched hulk glowing against frosted grass. January 2nd, 1986 tabloids plaster headlines. Drug lab in cabin, citing unnamed police who mistook melted portable oxygen canisters for paraphernalia. Toxicology later proves 0 drugs or alcohol in Nelson's system. Yet the rumor shadows his legacy for years. The 1987 NTSB docket labels cause cabin fire of undetermined origin, noting failed heater starts, missing logbook pages, and Rank's repeated attempts to relight the unit in flight. Without a pinpoint ignition source, liability slides through the cracks. Families settle insurance quietly. No criminal case follows. Conspiracy forums sprout alternate theories. Sabotage by disgruntled crew, mob debt revenge, even extraterrestrial beam weapons. None stick. What did stick was silence. until two forensic analysts reopened the sealed boxes nearly 4 decades later. In 2024, a renowned aviation safety podcast streams a 90-minute autopsy of the case. Using newly released inspection sheets, the hosts trace a chilling paper trail. 1977 to 83. Heater squawks logged 16 times. Fixes postponed for parts on order. September 20th, 1985. Pilot writes, heater blowing flames. Maintenance signs off without test run. December 30th. Won't sustain burn noted. Aircraft released anyway. One host calls N711Y an airborne time bomb and argues the fire almost certainly began inside the heater plenum, where leaking fuel pooled, sparked by relight attempts. The other notes rank violated emergency fire checklists by cycling the heater instead of diving for the nearest strip. Verdict: gross negligence, compounded by schedule pressure and outdated oversight on antique aircraft. Statute limits block prosecution, but public fury is swift. Blogs and forums demand tougher retrofits on vintage tour planes. During evidence locker cataloging in late 2024, archivists discovered 2 fire-singed Ampex reels. Sound engineer Jay DeWitt salvages 9 mostly complete songs plus fragments of 2 more. The vibe: Buddy Holly swagger under 80s neon, jangly Telecasters, Lynn drum accents, lyrics about second chances. One track, Shadowland Cafe, includes an eerie line: if the lights go out tonight, promise you'll play me home. April 2025. Youngest son Sam and guitarist James Burton confirmed the tape's authenticity and announced plans to finish the mixes with producer Dave Cobb. Proceeds earmarked for an aviation safety scholarship. Meanwhile, twins Matthew and Gunnar, whose band Nelson topped the Hot 100 in 1990 with Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection, launch a hologram-enhanced tribute tour. TikTok teens stitched the chorus of Garden Party onto breakup montages, sending the 1972 single rocketing up viral charts again. Ricky's ripple never stopped at vinyl. His Rio Bravo role turned casting norms upside down, proving pop stars could hold their own alongside Wayne and Dean Martin, paving the way for Bowie, Cher, and Gaga to jump mediums. His willingness to blend rock, country, and later hints of new wave foreshadowed genre benders from Tom Petty to Taylor Swift. Historians credit Nelson's Stone Canyon Band sessions with planting early seeds for the California country rock scene that birthed the Eagles. Every December 31st, fans still gather at the DeKalb crash site with tea lights and acoustic guitars. In 2023, the Texas legislature quietly placed a historical marker there. Simple plaque, silver letters, in memory of Eric Hilliard Ricky Nelson, whose music crossed borders and whose loss reshaped aviation safety dialogue. A modest tribute, but one that keeps the conversation alive. Ricky Nelson spent his life balancing innocence and rebellion, milk and cookies on television, rockabilly swagger on stage. His end wasn't written by fatalism, addiction, or enemy hands. It was written by expedience, by men who checked airworthy on a form they barely glanced at. The heater door latch, the missing fire extinguisher, the relight toggle flipped one time too many. Tiny choices snowballing into a pyre. So next time you board a plane, buckle into a tour bus, or even skip a safety step, just this once. Remember the kid America watched grow up each Thursday night. The man who believed in second acts, the artist who sang, "You can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself." Ricky's mystery is solved, but his cautionary echo survives in every maintenance hangar and backstage corridor. Play those newly unearthed tracks loud when they drop, and let them remind you that greatness can vanish in a gust of smoke if vigilance fades.